Hi, good morning. I'm so excited to be here. So excited to see everyone popping up in the chat. JR did introduce me, but I'll tell you a little bit more about myself. My name is Ryan, and I am just super passionate about helping people achieve their goals in business and life. I did not originally intend to go into the salon industry or even into business in the salon industry. So I have had the opportunity to learn from my mistakes, and there were a lot of them along the way. And my goal is to share my experience with others to help them be able to avoid making some of those mistakes. And learn from some of the triumphs as well. I'm very open to having a more conversational presentation. So I'll be able to see the chat box throughout the talk. And if you guys have any points that you want to touch on, please feel free to share in the chat box. So I originally, like I said, did not have the intention of going into this industry. I was an honors student on the academic track. So I believed that I was going to be either a lawyer or the CEO of some major company. And as life goes on, some tragedies happened in my family, and we don't have a ton of time to get into that today, but basically I ended up being a high school dropout and leaving my parents' home when I was about 16 years old. So I felt extremely hopeless at that time because my picture of success was you go to college. There was no other real option that I saw. So I was fortunate enough to become an apprentice to a successful stylist. And that progressed for me to go into school and being open to all the possibilities that that industry had, because previously I really thought of it as kind of a joke. I thought that's where you went, or that's what you did when you didn't go to college and you don't want to apply yourself. So I definitely learned that my picture of success was a little bit narrow-minded. And as I became more open to opportunities, so many doors opened up for me, and I'm beyond grateful for the life I have today because I chose to take this semi-unconventional path. So first, I want everybody to think about, have you considered opening a business? Do you have a specific concept in mind? And what's holding you back from that? If you want to share that in the chat to help me get an idea of where you all are at right now, that would be helpful. And if not, you can do it internally. Think about what's holding you back. And then if there's something that you really want to take away from this chat, please put that in there as well. So one of the first things that I recommend to anybody coming to me, asking how I did it in business, or what I suggest before they take the plunge, is to do your market and concept research. I think it's very easy to get excited about something. Maybe you're an ideal client for a specific concept, but there might not be the necessary market to sustain that. You can't predict the future. You know, there's no way to, seeing some chats come in. Thanks, guys. Got it. Thank you for that. Thank you for sharing. So yeah, you can't predict the future, but you can definitely do your due diligence. Different industries are going to have different resources to investigate what would be successful. Maybe your all online platform, or maybe you're regional. So just do your research before you get really excited about a new idea. Having a business plan. So many people, myself included, skip this step. When I opened my salon, I was 21 years old. I, again, had not gone to college for it. I hadn't even finished high school. So I did not know what a profit and loss statement was. I did not know how to quantify if I was successful. So depending, again, on what industry you're looking to go into, these things might look a little different, but something like a simple profit and loss statement every single business needs, whether you're one person or you're 100. Before you start the business, understanding what you're going to need to produce to cover certain costs. You'd be surprised how much the little things add up. So you might think, okay, I buy this item, I sell it for 100% markup, double the price, profit, boom, couple expenses, rent. But even if you don't have rent and you're an all online business, until you start getting things on paper, it's very hard to anticipate what it's actually going to take to be profitable. Using a rent justifier with sales projections. So for my industry, we have a couple of simple formulas. For instance, I have them listed in the bullet points here. Formula A is 15.4 times the rent of a location is what's going to be necessary in minimum total sales to be profitable. So that can be a big eye-opener for some people. There's another formula we can use, again, in the salon industry, is your rent should be no more than 6% of your service sales. Every industry is going to have a different set of formulas and reference points. This is just a for instance. Again, it's very easy as a new business owner or someone looking to become an entrepreneur to make emotional decisions. And I am only saying this because I have done that many times in the almost 10 years that I've been in business. However, if you want to be successful long-term and go into that, past that 1-year mark, that 5-year mark, that 10-year mark, getting your head for the numbers sooner than later is crucial. I think we probably have a lot of tech industry people on this. I'm hoping just a variety that this information will translate to all of the different types of industries. But for instance, if you're going from being a service provider, again, I'll speak like me being a technician as a hairstylist in the beginning of the business and being really great at that, or being a plumber or someone who makes goods. It's very easy, because that's your craft, that's your art, to want to make choices, again, based on that. However, referring to the numbers before anything else has been very helpful for me. Sorry, I'm trying to watch the chat box, look at my slides. Do you have a suggestion where people can go to help them do a better biz plan? Okay, I do believe that the Small Business Association, SBA, they have some templates that you can use. As we go through the slides here, I talk about working with a reputable accountant, someone that's non-biased, not a family member, not recommended by another person you're going into business with. Those people will be able to guide you from there. But I do know that the SBA has some resources, and they're free. Really important to consider as well is know what you're signing up for from a day-to-day perspective. As I touched on, thanks for that, Chris. As I touched on previously, you might be the primary technician, the primary service provider. You're great at that job. And then when you open a business, you're taking on possibly 100 other jobs that you don't yet or might not yet know how to do. So being ready for it seems very glamorous, and there are so many aspects of being a business owner that I'm beyond grateful for, but there's a lot of grind, and there's a lot of hats you have to wear. I didn't know I was going to have to be able to do accounting, be able to market myself, be able to be a coach for other employees, be able to basically be a counselor for my employees. So yeah, really try to dig a little deeper and consider what it really means for the industry you're going into on a day-to-day basis to be the owner. And then considering also how much time you're going to need to dedicate to working on your business versus in your business. Again, if you're that full-time service provider, are you going to have the time it takes to balance the books, to make the hires, do the interviewing, do the marketing? It definitely adds up, and it's not something we all think about right off the bat. I got a question from Joe. Hi, thank you. What was your process in branding your salon? Again, I was only 21 and I did not have any education at that time in running a business, but I started with a brain dumping exercise. I wrote on a piece of paper just everything in my head that I knew that I wanted this to represent. So I sketched a logo, I sketched another logo, I chose a color scheme. I wrote down all the procedures and processes that I could come up with at that time, what I expected an employee to be like, what I wanted to provide for our clientele, the experience, the products we used, all of that. I just got it out of my head and on paper and started to drill it down from there. Cool. Take a sip of water. All right. There's this really great book that I personally love. Again, I didn't get into this until several years of trying to run and manage my salon and be the full-time top service provider. And it's called The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. And it's a really fantastic book. You can listen to it on Audible, or you can have the paperback, or I don't think there's a hardback version, or the physical copy. I love listening to audiobooks. In the last 5 or so years, I've spent a lot of time educating myself to an extent that I feel is even more valuable than if I had just gone to college for a general reason, because I saw not going to school as being a failure in the beginning, but being able to handcraft and curate my own educational experience has given me the ability to get the most value out of my time, because time is the most finite thing any of us have, right? So even if you don't have a traditional education or traditional background, we're in such an amazing time right now where you can work on anything and learn anything that will serve you. So yeah, I highly recommend The E-Myth by Michael Gerber if you are, again, in your first couple years of business, or even if you're just, if you're on this forum right now, obviously you care about growing yourself and investing in yourself and your education, being a lifelong learner. So I think anyone in business, whether you've been in business 1 year or 5 years or 10 years, could benefit from that book. All right. Next would be don't skimp on accounting. So starting from day one with a reputable accountant, again, I mentioned somebody that's not a friend, a family member, or an acquaintance of a partner you're going into business with. They can help you make the best choices as you start. Are you going to be a corporation, an LLC? How are you going to structure the employment? Are you going to have W-2 employees, 1099 employees? All these things might be foreign to someone going into business for the first time. And then if you're doing your accounting consistently from day one, then you will be able to potentially make shifts that are going to save you early on. I've seen people firsthand that have a limited budget going to business and they don't make this a priority, and you can't afford to not make it a priority. So get a great accountant. Putting everything on paper. So for me, this has been one of the most important pieces of our structure as a company, and has grown and continues to be a huge focus of how we do things. Everything from employee manuals, your mission statement, what your core values are, what you're looking to achieve, what your target clientele is going to look like, everything that defines your brand. That's going to give you a much clearer picture of how to go about your marketing. Who are you targeting? Where do they hang out? What do they spend money on now? Having an ideal team member vision statement is huge as well. A huge portion of a business owner's time is spent developing a team, both hiring them, entertaining them, and growing them. We've been very fortunate to have a high retention rate. Some of our very first employees are still with us and have grown tremendously. Their incomes have grown tremendously, and we've done a lot of work, on ourselves and our personal development, at least in my company. And that's part of my mission statement, is to focus on growth, among other things. Having a 1, 5, 10-year plan. Do you know what you're working toward, what you're working for? When things are on paper and they're not just ideas in your head, it's a lot more tangible, it's a lot more real, depending on if you're, how open-minded you are, vision boards, law of attraction, that kind of thing. But even just from a purely real life thing, if you're looking at it every day and you're thinking about it every day, you're a lot more likely to achieve it. And it helps you get clear with everyone involved, whether it be a partner or whether it be an employee. If it's on paper, say their job description, what you're working for, everybody knows what they can expect from you, and you know what you can expect from them. If there's any other questions? How are we doing? Doing good, guys? Everyone good? So to speak again to that, putting things on paper, partnership agreements, so important. I could come up with a million reasons why, but I can give you my own personal experience. When I was 21 and we had this opportunity to buy the salon, I had $10,000 in a prepaid college account, and my grandmother, who was like a mom to me, grew up very close, trust her with my life, she offered to put in the other $10,000 and us to be 50-50 partners. So for me, that was a super exciting idea to have that opportunity. Definitely didn't want to pass up the opportunity to own a business at 21. But we didn't talk through so many logistical things. Where do we want to be in 5 years, 10 years? Who is truly going to be responsible and have the final say for when you're 50-50 partner, there's no tiebreaker. And it caused a lot of turmoil, and we're both well-intentioned people, but you consider her long-term plan at her age is probably a lot different than my long-term plan starting out young. My risk aversion level is a lot, I'm more open to risk, let's put it that way. And she was more ready to get that payout a lot quicker, whereas I wanted to reinvest all of our profits. Not really a great long-term plan for her. So that, again, if we had talked about that and our communication had been a little more solid up front, then we could have avoided a lot of this. And ultimately I did end up buying her out, but it wasn't great for our relationship. But we're good now. So I hope that could be something others could learn from, because it could even be your husband or wife that you're going into business. The divorce rate among spouses that work together is much higher. Let me see, I got a general chat here. I think we're still doing good. What software do you recommend for basic when starting out? For basic accounting software, there's QuickBooks is a big one. Doesn't cost much. Right now, I do everything through my accountant, and I have a industry-specific profit and loss layout. So it'll tell me what percentages I'm looking for in certain categories. So that was in the Q&A, if anybody's wondering what I'm talking about, sorry. Okay, yeah. So just to close out on partnership agreements, it's kind of like getting married, when you're in the honeymoon stage and you're really excited about your idea, everybody's like, well, I'll do this much and I'll do that much and we'll all do it all together. And that sounds great and fine, but it is not a long-term strategy. Something as simple as who gets to choose the furniture, or who gets to hire and fire, where do you want the business to go? Do you want to sell? Do you have the option to buy out your partner? What if they get a deal for their half and it's much higher than you can afford to give them? Can they basically sell their half of the business to put you in business with any person you didn't choose? And the more successful you are, the more likely that some of these challenging situations are going to come up. Look for mentors. So another personal example I have for this is being super young and not knowing what I didn't know. I just wanted to get out there and find other people that were doing what I wanted to be doing. So I cold called other salons in the Florida area, and was really fortunate to find one mentor that's still my mentor today. She owns a salon in Sarasota called Cutting Loose Salon, and she's an inspiration. She has been in business, a very long time, and has multiple locations and a very strong team. So I looked at the fact that she had those things, and she had the ethics that I cared about, and the same missions as I cared about, and I just offered to be of service to her. So whenever you are looking for someone to mentor you, first go into it being of service in any way you can. Maybe kind of hard to figure out how to do that, but I just asked, like, what can I do to help you, to be around you, to be of service in any way possible? And it has paid off a lot. You can consider paying a coach in your industry as well. Just make sure that they're reputable, and make sure that all the references check out, because more and more I see that everyone's a coach. So just consider if that person is doing what you want to be doing and their reviews are good, and maybe personally talk to some verified former customers. Another big one for me personally is not becoming complacent. So whether that be in your company or as an individual, be willing to pivot, be willing to grow, always be innovating. I believe that if you're not growing, you're dying. And one of our core values is growth. So any team member that joins my team knows that it is expected and not up for a discussion that we do education once a week. We do personal development throughout those different classes. We are always looking to be bigger, better, stronger as a company and as a team. And then for myself, I take that also very seriously. I always trying to push myself to be a better version, to be a better leader, a better communicator. In my industry, being something that's very much in tune with trends and the trendiest thing, and it's always changing, it's very easy to be on top one day and then, be a nobody the next day. And the reason that I think we've been able to sustain with this kind of longevity is reinvesting in my team and my company and finding ways to set ourselves apart. So what are you doing to work on yourself? What are you doing to keep your brand fresh and interesting, keeping people excited about it? What's going to set you apart? So as I mentioned again, be open, pivot, and have grit, because there's even the most well thought out plans are not going to go as planned. So there's going to be bumps in the road. Are you going to be ready for that? What is your risk aversion level? There's a book called Grit by Angela Duckworth that talks about, to paraphrase, basically the people that stick with something, whether it be a skill or a sport or playing an instrument, going to the Olympics, that the people that stick with that long term versus the people that are just naturally inclined, naturally intelligent, and don't give it as much consistent effort over the long term are less successful. So you might have those times where you're wondering if it's worth it, or you're wondering why you're putting yourself through all this, because it is a very challenging and stressful thing, especially if you have a team that's relying on you. But by coming into it consistently and having what they call grit, that's how you reach those big goals. So yeah, I think that's touching on all of my basic key points. So is there anything that you guys want me to get a little bit deeper into? Any other general questions? Go back through my slides to recap. So I'll recap it. Do your market and concept research, right? Have a business plan. Use a rent justifier when picking a location. Know what you're getting yourself into and what your days are going to be like. Don't skimp on accounting. Put everything on paper. Have a sound partnership agreement, both in your communication and legally. Look for mentors or coaches. Don't become complacent. And be open, pivot, and have grit. Okay, so I'm seeing some questions roll in. Thank you for that. I really like the conversational aspect of being in person, but this is fun. See, try new things, being open to pivot. So one piece of advice that I wish I knew before starting my business, to have a business plan. Definitely, Tiffany. Knowing how to quantify my success, how much profit percentage I could expect. The industry standard for profit in my industry is like 10% if you're doing well, and majority of businesses are not even profitable. So you don't think that when you're a hairstylist or a service provider, you see hundreds of dollars coming in per person and you don't realize where it goes. So yeah, I really wish I would have known to have everything on paper, have a partnership agreement, and employee manuals. Having all that ahead of time would have gotten me ahead a little faster. Anything else? What other questions do we have? Thank you, Tiffany. Something that has helped me grow myself, I'll say as well, and grow my team is doing education and providing education. So I am branching out more into general business education and mentorship. But for many years, I've traveled and trained and instructed in my industry. So for other professionals, getting involved in your community and doing what you can to give back, doing what you can to teach or mentor others, using whatever your skill set is to do that. That has been a huge part of our success. I believe because of our community involvement and our values of being of service, that we have been much more successful. Any other questions? Tips on separating business from personal with partners. So do you, like a life partner, basically? Not a business partner. I'm going to assume that's what Mary means. Okay, so my husband owns a restaurant, and we help each other a lot with our separate businesses, but we don't have a business together at this time. But how this relates to my grandma, and he actually is in business with his family. So there's a lot of commingling of the family and the personal and the business. What I would recommend is to have your designated corporate meetings the same as if they were people you didn't know, and to follow those guidelines that we talked about putting on paper of how you operate your business, because if what's expected and what the goal is on paper, it's a lot harder to veer from it. So say, well, is that in alignment with our mission statement? Is that in alignment with our partnership agreement? And then when you have personal time, trying to really enforce that that's personal time and this is not business talk. So I hope that helps with that question. While these 10 things are all good advice, what do you think is the biggest reason for your success and longevity? Okay, thank you for that question. I think there's a lot. Having stuck with it, I think, could be the number one thing. Not giving up when things were hard, because if I had done that, obviously I wouldn't be here right now. Maybe it's better that I didn't know some of the information I know now, because I might not have gone into I might not have gone this route, but I'm very thankful I did. I believe that my personal success has been from continuously working to grow, working to improve, working to educate myself where I had blind spots. One of the hardest things for me to do personally was to become a great leader, because I thought of leadership as having a strong will and being smart and being good at what you do. And leadership is not that at all. Leadership is about helping people achieve what they're looking to achieve. And you can, as a business owner, have certain expectations of what they need to achieve to be a part of your team. But at the end of the day, it's about getting the result over getting your way. So whereas you might want to say, well, I'm the boss and you got to do it my way because I'm the one who is personally invested. I'm the one who has proven myself. But ultimately, you're not, if you don't get the result you want, then it doesn't matter. And people are not going to respond to you just because you think you deserve the respect. You have to earn it. So I had to, again, a lot of the people going to joining my team were older than me. So it was definitely challenging to find those points of communication. And we do a lot of work with love languages and appreciation styles and color personality. A lot of team building. I invest heavily into my team members' growth and look to promote from within and give opportunities, because you might think, oh, a hair salon, but it's all the perspective to which you approach the situation. So our team members are leaders and are trained as such. And yeah, I saw another question come in. So I hope that answers what I believe my keys to longevity have been. Not giving up, always pushing to be better, always being honest about what my blind spots might be, being willing to take hard criticism, not always trying to be right. So how did you all handle AKA have grit and pivot the change with closures and restrictions from COVID? Okay. So Jennifer is asking how we handled COVID, basically. Well, it definitely gave me a lot of perspective on my life and business, because having started this in the beginning of my 20s and I don't have kids, like just got married. This has been everything for me. And I've internalized a lot of the stress over the years, and I have personal relationships with most of my team. We're just all close. And I realized that could all go away even no matter what I do. So I found acceptance in that, and knowing that I'm going to continue to give 100%, but one day it could just all go away. So don't sweat it so much. We had no choice but to close for about 2 months. We did close a little bit before we were mandated to. I stayed in touch with my team throughout it. I tried to have strong leadership in the way of communication and hope and attending to their needs. But ultimately, my experience was that a lot of my team was good. They were financially, I don't want to say to my surprise, but I wouldn't have always expected this. Financially, they were all comfortable to get through the time off. I know there was some help from the government over that time frame. I stayed in touch with our guests. I made sure to put periodic posts out. We didn't just go radio silence, sorry, we're closed. I personally called like 3 days, like I spent 3 days in my office calling clients, the first closure, to get them back on the book for the future. Then at that point, we didn't know when we were going to open, so we just kept putting social media posts out and checking in. We had a lot of support from our community, being that we have people purchasing gift certificates and reaching out to us. And I think having had such a strong foundation, and we've done well financially, we're not over leveraged. My team members, thankfully enough, we're all in a good position. I mean, I offered, if you need food, like I will feed you from my husband's restaurant. If you need an advance, we can talk about that. So letting them know I was there to support them. Ultimately, they didn't take advantage of any of that. But I didn't lose any team members over this. And I am so, so blessed. I know that wasn't the case for everyone. It really kind of, I think, magnified what you were already experiencing. And it wasn't perfect. There was definitely some, very stressful moments where I was like, I don't know, makes you think about everything. But ultimately, we all came back together and we're happy to be together. We pivoted with our scheduling and how we were there. So we split schedules, we isolated, we had 3 separate teams that didn't cross over. So after opening, we could make sure that if someone did get infected or become contaminated, that was only 1/3 of our business closing versus all 3 segments of the schedule. We were obviously above and beyond cautious in our sanitation, made sure our guests knew that. I'm trying to think what else. And what I will say that this time of pivot did for us was it opened up a lot of possibilities that I would not have agreed to before, like having a 3-day work week for our team members that they loved. And before it was 5 minimum, it was a 5-hour work week, 7-hour shifts. And then once you hit over $100,000, $120,000 in service, then you could go down a 4-day work week and so on, because all my employees are W-2 employees. So we could talk about tax code and W-2 versus 1099, booth rental, this, that. But my people are all, like, I match their taxes. They're employed by my corporation. So before, sorry, tangenting a little bit. Before they were, didn't have as much flexibility in their own individual schedules. There was expectations and ways to hit rewards in their schedule. And after COVID, they had the opportunity for a 3-day work week, and they were making more money in that time than before COVID, which blew my mind because I was pretty attached to my expectation of a 5-day work week, then a 4-day work week, then, hitting goals and making sure we, produced accordingly. But when I gave up a little bit of that control and tried something new, it's been nothing but a benefit. So that's kind of what we experienced with COVID. I hope that gets into that for you, Jennifer. So thanks, Darren. Appreciate that kind message. See if there's any more questions. Come on, guys, ask me anything. I've done a lot in my industry. I've worked on the road with Paul Mitchell, the company, at hair shows. I have, been a full-time stylist, so I do get that perspective for my team members. And now working a lot, I think what I've found the most fulfillment from, and why I believe that life has put me into this position, is the ability to help others and grow others. And through that, I found the most growth in myself. And so I feel like I could do a whole class just on culture and team building. It's definitely a lot of give and take for that. And not always having to be the smartest person in the room or the best ideas. yeah. A lot of our success, which is unique to our industry as a team. So I think in salons, it's very easy to get an ego from certain high performers. It's very, which is, I'm sure, translates to a lot of different industries. So the way that we've combated the super big egos and the walkouts and that kind of thing is by helping give ownership to our team members and it not being all about me. Like the name is not my brand, like my name. We all rep that brand with pride, and you have to have team members that line up, that the brand's vision and the brand's values line up with the team members' values, and that's how you get real buy-in. And again, giving them some control to make decisions, putting people in leadership positions. I see a bubble for a general chat message. I don't know if I'm missing them. Which businesses besides other hair salons are natural partners for salons? Okay. We do a lot in the community. So we work with, I have a friend that owns a yoga studio. I have a friend that owns a brewery. I have friends that have clothing stores, things like that. So I guess it depends on the area. Like my Spring Hill salon, my first salon, Hernando County, Spring Hill, very different market and very different community than Tampa. So we do a lot. We do like a back to school cuts for kids. We team up with the YMCA. They host us. My husband's restaurant gives away free pizza for that event. We collect donations. So a lot of small town like coming together in that location. And then in Tampa, it's been a different experience getting tapped into the market and making connections with other business leaders. I've worked more in like Tampa Chamber of Commerce. I'm in a group called Babe Crafted, Emerging Leaders of Tampa Bay, to try to get to know the community, because I really needed to start there, being that I didn't live in Tampa until recently. So just a salon in general, I would say I've seen them team up with florists and do some type of partnership. Photographers can work on collaborations together. Different restaurants are always great to know. Yeah. Let's see. I see the bubble like there's another chat, but I can't figure out where the question is. Oh, I think I found it. All right. Tell us a story about a recent victory or failure. Okay. So for me, I have a question about my recent victories, my recent failures. For a long time, failures would come from communication. My particular personality style with the testing and whatnot that we do, very like no nonsense kind of person, get the job done, hustle. And then when you work with artists, there can be a lot of more emotionally driven decisions. And I've had to learn how to be considerate of that, even if it's not something that I find to be important to me on my own. So I've had a few people leave for things that I probably could have prevented in the past, and learning from that. And again, being just a little bit more willing to bend. And yeah. And then so next year we're going to be at next June we'll be 10 years in business. So that's a huge victory for me. I just turned 30. So I'm very proud of getting to that milestone. What's your biggest tip success for scaling a DTC hair care brand going up against the big brands? What's DTC stand for? Oh, direct to consumer. Got it. Sorry, I like popped in my head as you said it. Okay. The personal relationships, what I believe sets us apart is the customer service we offer. Even we're a high-end salon. Our salon produced, I think, like 1.5 million in total sales last year, and we only have about 20 team members, and 3 of them are managers like myself. So that's way above industry standard nationally. And the reason that and especially like an area like Hernando County, it's not that kind of market. So it's not like, you're in Miami where it's not a thing. We have to provide the value. So how do you create value? Educating your guests about what you're doing, why you're doing it, how you're doing it, being that higher level of service, just like a restaurant or a hotel experience. The little things make a big impact. So yeah, the hair might be just as good from another salon, or the product might be just as good from another salon or online, but are you getting that personal concierge touch where they're curating the experience, they're curating the items that you need, they're here to answer any questions. If you buy a tool from us, like a iron or a blow dryer, we give a free 30-minute lesson. So that's ways that we set ourselves apart, and we go the extra mile. So if you buy that off Amazon, are they going to teach you how to use it on Amazon? No. And I also think, again, our giving back in the community, we're very well known for that. Something that's been successful for me is to have an open door policy of, if you ask for it in for community involvement, we say yes, which might be sound a little crazy, but we sponsor things, we donate our time, our energy. We've done countless events, countless cut-a-thons, back to school. This is the first year we haven't had a back to school cut-a-thon because of, COVID, obviously. You don't want to gather 150 kids in a room at the YMCA, but all those things, I think, build loyalty in our client base. And we also educate them that when they spend money in our salon, it helps us give them a better experience. It benefits their favorites. It benefits their stylists they're buying from, because a percentage of that goes toward their education. Before COVID, we were traveling a ton for trainings. We were probably taking a trip every other month to another state or another city to learn. So I take a percentage of their retail sales as a stylist, and I pay for their education through that. So that encourages our clients to buy from us. How are we doing on time here? I think we're getting toward the end of the hour. I really hope this is helpful for all of you, and I am so accustomed to seeing everybody's faces in person and making that connection, so I do miss that aspect, but this is pretty fun too. And I'm grateful that we were able to pivot and still have an event at all. So grateful that we have that option of technology, and I do hope this was helppful for you. And what I would ask is, if you follow me on social media, looks like it's a little cut off here. Let me see. So feel free to, Ryan Halo is my newly formed business Facebook, but we also have a Salon Halo Facebook. You can find me on Instagram. Salon Halo 352 is our salon page. Ryan Halo is my Instagram page. And if you have any personal questions, you want to reach out to me directly, I'm more than happy to support you in that way. And I really do genuinely love to help people. So yeah, feel free. Don't be shy. Reach out, tag me, tell me what worked well for you. Another thing that would be super helpful for me as a growing educator is if you could maybe put in the chat box something that you learned from this and something that you're taking away. That would be really great, and I can know what's working.